Welcome to the Tip of the Spear podcast.
All right, there's been a new report out of Washington that has basically studied the elite within Congress on class, who's rich and who's not, in which districts are rich districts and which ones are not, because there's a growing resentment towards this rich elite establishment, i.e. Vern Buchanan and others like him, and especially since he's trying to represent a district that is below the median income. So let me share with you this screen, and this is the report that was put together by Sam Gedoldig. Sam Gedoldig. And this was by Breitbart News. And what we see here, and I'm going to scroll to the bottom here, is that there has been a division among the elite and those that are on the outside, and it's been largely by income. Now, here is Congressional District 16's median income. We are at $41,366 median income. And the average median income of a congressional district is around $48,600. So we're on the lower end, and yet we're being represented by somebody that's a part of the elite rich establishment in DC. And what this report identifies and shows is there is a growing disconnect and disgruntled nature of the American population, that they are sick and tired of being ignored, and all of their interests are being ignored by this coalition of rich Democrats and rich Republicans. And they say that there's a number. There's about 120 Republicans and about 120 Democrats that are the coalition, and there's an elitist, snobist attitude to the rest of the members in Congress. Now, they are losing power and have lost power, and this report shows that there is likely to be a populist coalition that's entering the 2024 election. And we see it with Vern Buchanan. We see it because he lost, and here's the initial shots and initial reverberations that are starting to reverberate across the political spectrum. When he was lined up to be the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, and he lost that because the Conservative Coalition and the Freedom Caucus and those members held McCarthy to a standard, and part of that standard was to not allow Vern Buchanan to be the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. That sent shockwaves, and it's been reverberating shockwaves since then, that this populist coalition, that we the people will not be ignored forever. And so it takes time to work these things out in Congress and in politics. And so we're seeing this populist coalition, as you can see down here, likely to be happening in 2024. In Vern Buchanan, and this race for Florida District 16 is right at the center of it. You've got Vern Buchanan has an entrenched neocon establishment a la Mitt Romney, who saw the writing on the wall and retired. And I'd recommend that Vern Buchanan did the same thing, because the people are waking up, and we the people are sick of being ignored and disregarded and treated as second-class citizens. And so that is what this report is highlighting at the next level of detail in forecasting for 2024.
My relationship with Eddie actually started through my wife, Ashley. I remember my wife and I, after being newly married, both entered a season where we had a lot to deal with. We were dealing with a lot of hurt from our old jobs, and I remember I didn't want my wife to just enter any job, any workplace, and so I chose to be the sole provider for a season, to wait until my wife had the right opportunity that I knew she would love. And I remember about 6 months into my marriage, she interviewed at Inspiration Academy, where she met Eddie and the whole team there. And I remember after she got hired, she would come home every day for 2 weeks and just rave and talk about how much she loved her job, how much she looked forward to going back. And I never will forget when I first got to meet Eddie. Eddie and his wife Claire invited us over to a family gathering, from meeting Ashley. And I remember just hanging out with this guy and telling him my story, probably, talking his ear off. But he just sat and listened. I mean, he had a lot of friends there, had a lot of family there, and he just sat down and got to know this 22-year-old kid and hear my story. And I just remember how intentional he was in listening. He never seemed like the guy who needed to be somewhere. Even though I've learned a thing about Eddie, he's a busy guy. He has a lot to do. He has a lot on his plate. But yet somehow, when you spend time with him, he seems so calm and not a care in the world, not a worry in the world, and as if there's not a place he needs to be to next. One of the greatest things Eddie offered my wife and I as a gift to us was when I opened up to him, and the many times I would go and talk to him about my marriage. And I used to bicker a lot with my wife and deal with a lot of fighting, a lot of challenges. And I remember telling Eddie this and telling him how frustrated I was in this. And there was two things he did that surprised me. The first thing he did was he showed me where I was probably wrong and how I needed to have some humble pie. The second thing he did was he offered the opportunity and opened the door for Ash and I to meet with him and his wife to see if he could help counsel us, work things out in front of them. And so my wife and I took that opportunity. We hung out with them, and once again, we'd block off an hour, and he would go way past that, just listening to Ash and I and giving us advice. Claire, his wife, would speak into us and really encourage us. And I learned a few things about Eddie through that. He cares about people our age. He wants to see the young family strong, healthy, and raising good kids and have a strong marriage. And he's willing, if he has the means and has the needs, he's always willing to be generous and give his time, his money, and his effort to help people out. That has changed my perspective.
I think you represent the silent majority that back in, when was that, the 80s?
Yes.
The silent majority that all of the political pundits just ignored and said, well, they're not loud, they're not squeaky, they're not complaining, they're not protesting, they're not doing anything, so we can simply ignore them. So do you feel that way?
I do. I feel that way very strongly. There are a lot of people, like I talked earlier about, they complain about, can I say his name?
Yeah, absolutely.
They complain about Vern Buchanan, but yet in the end they go vote for him.
Yeah.
So we need someone that's honest and true and will not line their pockets with the money when they get in office, that we can trust. And there's so many people that do not trust Vern Buchanan, and yet they turn around and vote for him, which is so wrong.
Why do you think that is?
Maybe because he's been in office for so long and they're just accustomed to it.
Yeah.
Because every year that he runs, for the last couple of times, I hear the same thing over and over and over. And I keep thinking, why are you voting for him then? Why, but they seem to. Now, I think there are connections with his family. They've lived here for many years. And so, of course, they just go ahead and vote for him. I, on the other hand, haven't and won't. So, not that it's doing any good, but
Yeah.
I won't.
Well, I believe it will do good this
Yeah.
go round.
I think so too. I hear more and more people talking about the fact that he's basically goes whichever way the wind blows, and you see more and more publicly, on TV, on the news of him. Well, just like he was at the White House at the bowling alley,
Yeah.
like celebrating when they, kicked out the leader of the House. So, it's.
Yeah, the Republican Party was in disarray, and I don't know about you, but I've never seen Vern Buchanan so happy and so comfortable as when he was at the White House dancing and having a good time. I've never seen him have a good time. He seems, in public, he seems pained. He seems very uncomfortable.
Right.
That's the only time I've ever seen him happy, and I think that spoke volumes. And I think it spoke
Mhm.
volumes to a lot of
I
people.
think it did too. I think it opened the eyes of a lot of people,
Yeah,
and even ones that were in favor of him. I think once they saw that, they, they, you know, not in favor of him. Now, what they do when it comes the day of the vote may be something different, but I think we had to push you out there more.
yeah,
That's what we did.
yeah. And that's what I've been trying to do, is just get my name out there without, I can't spend. I'm not the fifth richest person in Congress,
Right.
nor do I have the connections to all of the lobbyists,
Yeah,
nor do I want the connections to
right.
all the lobbyists, because I think that goes back to the original point where the voters are ignored. The silent majority is just taken for granted.
Right. I agree. I agree 100% with that. I just think that we've got to do something to turn this country back around. And we get people, even in Manatee County. I worked hard for some of those commissioners, door knocked, phone calls. I bet you I called everybody in Manatee County. And then they get in office, and it's like they're not doing what they said they were going to do. And it's the developers, they line the pockets, so of course, you know.
um, I'm laughing because a lot of times it's the very aggressive activists that understand clearly that there's corruption happening at local politics within the Republican Party.
Oh, yes,
And to
there
hear
is.
you just very quietly but powerfully and sternly saying this is wrong, there is corruption that's
There is.
happening at
There
a
is.
local level within
There,
within the Republican Party. So this idea that um, we just need to stand behind the Republican, well, yes, once you have the right Republican,
right.
and we've
Yeah,
got to fight against the corruption at all levels.
we do. And I think one of the worst things is when they've been caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and then they refuse to resign.
Yeah,
I mean, look at Sarasota School Board. The person on there that should have resigned immediately and refusing to resign.
yeah, and
And
even
then you can't. I mean, it's like your hands are tied. They seem like they can't do anything about it. I think I could find a way to do something about it if I was on that board.
yeah, and even more so with Christian Ziegler
Yeah,
as the head of the entire
I
Republican
know.
Party of Florida.
Why would you wait another month when you clearly know that he's the wrong person? Whether he, uh, I have no idea if he committed the act they're accusing him of, but there's something there.
Yeah,
And when someone is in leadership like that and those things come out, he may not, he may be innocent until proven guilty, but historically, there's a moral issue
yeah,
that he should not even be where he is.
and a lot of people are saying, let's wait until the courts determine. Let's not judge him in the court of public opinion. And I understand that. But please, there's more to this story. He
Yeah,
has admitted
right.
to a polyamorous relationship
Yes.
as a social conservative, which is just making a mockery of all Republicans.
Right.
More than 50% of Republicans, I'd say quite a bit more, classify themselves as social conservatives. And now this person is the leader of that
Yeah,
group. It makes a mockery and it's hypocritical.
it
And
is.
just simply because of the hypocritical nature in which he's led one life and then present himself as another,
Yeah.
and he lacks the integrity, he needs to step down.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and what's interesting is that both him and Joe Gruters, these are the people that came from Vern Buchanan,
Right.
got their start with Vern Buchanan.
Right.
And then you tie in somebody else, Anthony Pedicini, who
Oh,
is the one who is the corruption piece between the developers and the Republican commissioners at this
yes.
stage.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you know, in Manatee County, it's so frustrating to see the developers just without any respect for the rest of the county, just throwing up house after house, driving out the habitat of the wildlife. I mean, where I live, all of a sudden we're having wildlife show up in the community that's never been there before. I mean, we've had wild hogs, we've had chickens, we've had rattlesnakes,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's there right there on 301. And all of a sudden, there's all of this coming because they sold themselves out to the developers, and it's not right.
Yeah,
And
there was no reason to move from 50 feet to
no,
25 feet. Everybody who bought property bought it under the premise that it was a 50-foot barrier,
hmm
50-foot buffer zone to protect the wetlands. Now, you can make an argument that it doesn't make that much of a difference, but oh my goodness,
it does.
it, I think I think there could be an argument made that it doesn't make that much of a difference, but they bought it under the premise. So why would the county just give up an extra 25 feet
Yeah.
of wildlife, let alone what it looks like? Because the biggest damage, in my opinion, is the lack of confidence in our government and in our institutions. That is the problem. Even if it was just the appearance, it looks awful. And in my
Yes.
opinion, it is awful if you follow the money and you follow the digital assassins of real Manatee County conservatives and how they're going in and creating division amongst patriotic Americans, America First candidates, people who believe in the Constitution. There's the establishment and then there's grassroots.
Right.
And clearly there's the establishment even at a county level. And what was just so encouraging for me when we were able to sit down and talk is that you see it. There's a silent majority that's here that sees this. They're being ignored,
Yeah.
but that's not going to last forever. And I think
Yeah.
things are changing.
Well, I hope they change. I think if they want to keep building and building and building, they need to slow it down until you have the infrastructure that can take care of it. You can't. 301 is now a nightmare. I mean, I live in Parish. Normally, it would have only taken me maybe 20 minutes to arrive here. Took me 55 minutes.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, yeah, and I missed a majority of the traffic.
Yeah.
But it's just, so many people, that are here, and then they're building, it's just unbelievable. When you get past, well, you just go north on Moccasin Wallow Road. Unbelievable, unbelievable the amount of construction going on. And we had a speaker at one of our Republican clubs that got a lot of pushback because he was saying, well, these people are coming here, you have to provide housing for them. No, you don't. They have a house where they are. They can wait until the roads can accommodate some of that. I mean, it's a nightmare. You can't just throw thousands of people into a county and you don't have the infrastructure to take care of them. It's a nightmare. I mean, it really is. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you
Yeah.
can forget it. You're not getting anywhere. It's almost like being in New York, New Jersey, Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I traveled those places with the contracts that I did, and the traffic was horrific. And every other weekend when I would fly home, I would think, thank goodness I don't have to deal with that traffic. And now it's
Now
like,
it chased you here.
now it's here. It's like, gosh,
Yeah.
but it is. It's, you get on any of these streets at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I can tell you how many times that I have sat through the red lights. And used to, you might have to sit through one, maybe two. Now you're lucky if you get through after four light changes.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think people understand that. I don't think, and you're referring to Ray Turner, I imagine, I'm guessing. Um, and I watched some of that. I
Yeah.
wasn't there, but I watched some of it, not all of it. But I almost felt for Ray Turner because it seemed like he's just kind of stepping into it. He doesn't understand that the trust has been lost.
It has been.
And I think he was just kind of shocked there for a little bit. And I'm not saying that he's, you know, good or bad. A part of the corruption led by the developers
Right.
through Anthony Pedicini, or he's not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we're getting into a polarizing situation, and I'm not just trying. I'd like to bring people together, but the problem is the corrupting influence of Anthony Pedicini. And by the way, Vern Buchanan has been using him and has paid him $466,000. So people wonder where he gets his money from. A lot of it comes from lobbyists from the federal level through Vern Buchanan to Anthony Pedicini, obviously to do work for him, but also there's more to it than that, and also from the developers. And then he goes out and creates division and creates establishment Republicans that are going to go against people who just are about we the people,
Right.
who are listening to we the people and voting and will vote for and represent we the people. And that division is happening. And I think one way or the other with Ray Turner, I don't think he realized the toxicity of the relationship that's happened because of the corruption.
Yeah, I agree. I was very much, for him and for voting for him until he just kept saying, well, when they, you have to provide housing for them. No, you don't. They have a house. They don't have to move until you've got the infrastructure to take care of them. You can slow it down. You don't have to throw up neighborhoods with 12,000 homes in it, and then your roads can't carry it. You can't carry the load. 301 has now another development going on they built a new Lowe's and they've added the shops. And they're adding more and more, so it's going to be a mall, but the road can't handle it.
Yeah.
I mean, and when all of those homes are developed, those communities on Moccasin Wallow, you're never going anywhere. You're going to have a helicopter to go to the grocery.
Now let me ask you a question, because those are local, and I believe that I can have an impact by being in a leadership position at a federal level of calling out some of the corruption that's happening here in a local, and if nothing else, not feeding it with lobbyist money to a corrupt political consultant like Anthony Pedicini or Jennings Lawton DePriest or Eric Robinson or the rest. There's a number of them.
Right.
But how much, when you've heard me speak a couple times now, did you know that Vern Buchanan was one of only 3 Republicans to pull out, to block President Trump from pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement? Did you know that before I told you that?
No, I didn't.
Wasn't that shocking? When I asked people if they knew that, and I can't be upset at the voters because I didn't know either. We're so busy with our lives and trying to make a living that we don't understand that our representatives are voting for, ironically enough, the Green New Deal that Kevin Van Ostenbridge accused the conservationalist, myself included, and a lot of other people that were concerned about that vote. He called them George Soros funded for the Green New Deal, when Vern Buchanan is the one who literally went out on a limb for the Green New Deal, for the Paris Climate Agreement. I mean, there's so many others that if you didn't know that, I'm sure you didn't know that he wanted to put us into the World Health Organization.
No, I didn't know that, and thank goodness I didn't. I probably would have been out on the street protesting.
Yeah, that was 2021, but he's very quietly just has disrespected and has taken for granted the silent majority.
Right.
And he's gotten a pass from the media, and he's gotten a pass from local establishment
Mm-hmm.
Republican clubs because they haven't been bringing these things up
No.
until I came along
I
and
know.
started reminding them. And I
I'm
was
glad you
reminded
did.
myself. Yeah. And the border.
Oh, yeah. That's I cannot believe that we have let that happen. It's like you see it now. They are putting it on the news. For a while, you didn't even see it on the news. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, well, we're not going to talk about that. It's unbelievable. And it's like opening up your door and saying, okay, everybody in the neighborhood can come into my house and take whatever you want.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what it's like. It's just as basic as that.
Yeah.
I mean, you see them.
It's not a complicated issue.
No, I mean, why? Well, I know why it happened. I mean, I know exactly why it happened.
Yeah.
The Democrats are going to let them vote, so we'll never have another Republican in there because it's,
But why? So Vern Buchanan was one of only 16 Republicans to not vote to impeach Mayorkas. We had a chance as the Republican Party to get rid of these policies in the Department of Homeland Security and the Border Patrol that reports to the Department of Homeland Security, which reports to Mayorkas. We had a chance to impeach him.
Right.
He was one of only 16 Republicans to not vote to impeach him.
Well, it's, he's, well, it was evident when he was dancing in the bowling alley and having a good time. It's evident which side he's really on.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. I mean, it was even worse until he suddenly became, head part of Manatee County. So now he's like on the surface trying to placate, people in Manatee County. But I think they're waking up. And, I hear more than, I've heard a lot. And they won't say it in front of a lot of people. They won't say that, he's got to go. But, and then come vote time, who knows? But, that's what's happened.
Well, I'll share with you that I am finding very little resistance. I think there's a lot of people who are just kind of been waiting for somebody to step up. And then I'm knocking on doors and telling people, hey, I'm stepping up. He's done this and this and this. And a lot of people are like, it's about time. He's been there too long. I hear that a lot. He's been there too long. And the people who have studied, I can't even get out my name before they say, where do I sign?
Yeah.
You're running against Vern, where do I sign?
Yeah.
They don't even ask if I'm Republican or Democrat.
They're just wanting that.
Yeah.
Well,
with friends like that, who needs enemies?
Yeah, exactly. Of course, when Marty gave you a few minutes to speak at our club, and one person spoke up and said, "Well, Vern Buchanan's done a lot for Manatee County." Well, I don't know exactly what he's done. I've been in Manatee County since 1994.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what he's done.
Here's the story that they're saying is that he brings a lot of money in.
Into his pocket. You might have to cut that one.
I could have timed that better. That was great. That was great. No, but they say he's brought a lot of money into the county. But it's just simply not true. If you look at the percentages of what he's voted to spend,
right,
$5.5 trillion and counting.
Yeah.
That is $55,000 per taxpaying household that he spent of our money. Yeah. Now, he's going to spend some. It's in the federal government, and the government needs to operate, but it can operate at 80%. We can cut by 80% and be just fine. Right. If Twitter can do it, the federal government is more bloated than Twitter ever was.
Right.
As bad as Twitter was.
Yeah.
But we can certainly do that. So he's spent that much money of everybody. Now, if you presented, He spent $55,000 of your money in the time that he's been in office, and what did you get for it? You just run a balance sheet on that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
everybody would say, no, he's not bringing money in. It's
Mm-mm.
not helping.
No.
And it's a failed premise in the first place to think that his job is to go get money.
Right.
That's not his job.
Mm-mm. No.
And that's not Congress's job to
No.
spend money.
No.
That's a failed premise to even be thinking that way.
I certainly hope I'm doing all I can to get you elected, and I hope that we're successful with that, because I really, if you ask me what I think he's done, I couldn't tell you because I haven't seen it.
No, and I don't think he could tell you
Yeah.
either,
Yeah.
and that's why I think he's going to avoid a debate at all costs.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure he will. He's comfortable.
Yeah.
He lives on Longboat Key.
Yeah.
I haven't seen his home, but I'm sure it's so good.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm sure you could take my little place and set it in one bedroom.
Yeah, it's not representing.
No.
Not representing.
No.
Well, thank you so much, Beverly,
you're
for coming
welcome.
and making the trip. I'm sorry it was so long.
Oh, it's okay. It's the custom. If you're going anywhere past the interstate on 301, you're going to
Just expect it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But
well, thank you again. I really
you're
appreciate
welcome. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. We'll talk again soon.
Yes, and good luck.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Tip of the Spear podcast.